So, good morning once again. So, my topic for today is up until now, embracing the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I invite us to look at that word embracing. It's not tolerating, it's not accepting, it's not even allowing, it's embracing. So I'm going to talk more about that this morning, and I'm so glad you're with me. And good morning and good afternoon again if you're with us online or watching later, as well as to those of you in this very room. So the opportunity today and every day, and really every moment, is for us to spring forward. Forward sounds really good to me. So progress, doing something, thinking something, creating something, releasing something, but that moves us forward rather than draws us back and keeps us stuck in whatever it is. I have a dear friend, Reverend Kathleen Johnson, is the senior minister at a CSL in Wilmington, Delaware, and their theme for 2024 is do more. In 2024, do more in 24, which I think is kind of cute. So sometimes it's pretty easy to spring forward. We release that box of, a dear friend of mine used to tease me for saying stuff, but I don't have another word. Physical possessions, aka stuff. Releasing the stuff that no longer serves us. And I don't know about you, but spring cleaning for me is an ongoing, not challenge. I don't like the word challenge. Opportunity. Who left that box there? I don't remember that before. Where did that come from? And so it's, for many of us, and me included, it's an ongoing, because I have stuff from when I was married and from when my parents had their house in Escondido. And so just all of these wonderful things that, let's look at this and decide if this is worth keeping or that I'm ready to release. So sometimes it's pretty easy, but sometimes it's not. I'll bet you would agree with me that this life is this thing called life. And you remember one of Ernest Holmes' little books, the title when he first wrote it was This Thing Called Life. This thing called life is amazing and wonderful and joyful and exciting and passionate. And it's also the pits. It's painful and heartbreaking and all of those other words. It's all of that. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And sometimes the you've heard me say this before and you will again, I love Facebook because I just get so many cool quotes and things to repost on Facebook. And one of my favorites is this one. Life is amazing. And then it's awful. And then it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and awful is ordinary and mundane and routine. Breathe in the amazing, hold on through the awful, and relax and exhale during the ordinary. That's just living. Heartbreaking, soul-healing, amazing, awful, ordinary life. And it's breathtakingly beautiful. So we're going to talk this morning about all of that and more besides, and how we navigate through the chocolate mousse and the broken glass. So both ends of the spectrum, if you will. So I'm really glad you're with me this morning. So the subtitle of today is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And if we're going to talk about that, we have to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Martin, whenever you're ready. Okay, that's enough. Thank you so much. I used to have that as the ringtone on my phone for a while. Just the most amazing music. Now, this is not a particularly happy or positive movie, and if you remember, it's from 1966. Oh my God. I know, right? I'm like, really? So, I think most of us, not all of us, but most of us in this room might remember what happened in 1966. Those of you that are watching from home or watching later might not, and that's okay, but I don't want to hear about it if you don't. But for those of us, just as a reminder, it was Clint Eastwood as the good, Lee Van Cleef as the bad, and Eli Wallach as the ugly. And this was one of the three, and because it was done by Italians and filmed partially in Italy, it was called a spaghetti western, which is just so funny. And one of the three, so the Dollars trilogy was A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and then The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So that's your history lesson for this morning. But interesting, because I learned, and it was interesting to research this because I think I remembered the actors, but I didn't remember the trilogy and all the rest of that. So kind of interesting, but absolutely an epic movie that we remember. Again, not particularly happy, but love the music and the theme. So often we go to a place or hear a song or smell something or see something that reminds us of a past experience, and quite possibly a bad or an ugly experience. Reverend Angela Geary was with us last Sunday along with Reverend Suzette, and if you were with us, you remember that, and how cool that was to have someone from another center come in and talk. What, you mean we talk in New Thought? We really talk the same language? We really believe the same things? We can really embrace somebody from a different organization? Maybe we can do unity and divine science too? Of course we can. Of course we can. But I love that Reverend Suzette did that. But Reverend Angela was talking about the memorial service that she had been to the day before. Reverend Kevin Busey is the senior minister for Universal Spirit Center, and his husband, Tim Hepburn, made his transition a few weeks ago. Tim and I worked together several years ago, 20 years ago or so, at a technology company. And so I, of course, attended the service. But it was a little painful in spots because it brought back the memories of when my husband died 5 years ago. And many of you were able to attend the memorial service and that whole experience. So it just brought back some wonderful and not so wonderful memories, again, especially in the bad bucket, if I choose to put it in a bucket. But so often we have those experiences. We human beings want the good to be over quickly. I'm going to eat my... See, I used to pick on Brussels sprouts, but I can't do that anymore. I used to eat my asparagus without hollandaise sauce so that I can get to the chocolate mousse. I'll go through what that is so I can get to what I really like. We'll get through the bad and the ugly so we can get on to the good. And sometimes we can do that, but very often the good sometimes progresses into the bad, and the labels kind of meld. And so there's always the opportunity for us to just be with whatever is going on, and I'll talk more about that. We might judge a change as bad or ugly because, I don't know about you, but it's been my experience that I don't like change. It's familiar. Maybe it's uncomfortable, but I'm familiar with the discomfort, and so even if it doesn't work, I'm not sure that I want to change it. Ever had that stay in a relationship that's not real wonderful, but somebody said the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And so we stay almost stuck in that less than wonderful situation rather than making a change. In a job situation, we might not like it, we might even close to hate it, it might be bad or ugly, but we're just not, the divine discontent hasn't really whacked us across the head yet, and so we just stay kind of stuck in whatever that is rather than being willing to move on. It doesn't matter which bucket. If you think of good, bad, and ugly as three buckets, it doesn't matter which one we put our memory of that experience in, except when we start to judge ourselves that we shouldn't have things in the bad bucket, that we shouldn't have things in the good bucket, because it's all in divine order. It's all good. Everything is as it should be. Do you remember those toxic positivity statements that we make to ourselves sometimes? And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But allow ourselves to say, yes, that was lousy. Yes, that was bad. Yes, that's not what I wanted. Which is not to say that I'm not in the process of moving past it and moving forward, but recognize it for what it was. It was bad when that job that I had with Tim, I was lovingly released, which it sounds so much better than laid off, the end of 2008. Wow, that was a long time ago. It's interesting in 2024 because our technology and our needs are so different than they were 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So the job that I had, our largest client didn't need the services we provided anymore, so they canceled. And so when their contract went away, basically so did I. Should have seen it coming. Ooh. See, there's my favorite word, should have seen it coming, but I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. So that goes in the bad bucket, except that it was the best thing that could have happened. Ever had one of those? Oh, this is awful. Oh, this is heartbreaking, but we just have to keep walking and get to the other side. But still, it was a bad thing at the time. It's interesting to me to look and see what the industries that either are different than they were before or that no longer exist. I go to work in downtown San Diego 3 days a week, and so I'm on the 8 West going by Mission Valley Center, which is no longer Westfield Mission Valley Center. Westfield, so as you may know, Westfield sold it, and it's going to wind up being multi-use, so I think retail and condos and whatever else. But those of you that have been in San Diego for a long time, do you remember May Company? So before it was Robinson's May, that big building on the East End was May Company. Back in the day when you'd get up in the morning and get ready and get dressed up and go shopping for the day and maybe meet friends, go to lunch. May Company had a lunch room on the second floor. Just have the shopping as the experience, as compared to the Amazon app that's on my phone, which is incredibly convenient, except that I get a thought. Gee, it'd be fun too. I wonder if Amazon has that. Of course Amazon has that. And so the nice people a couple of days later send me whatever my heart desires. Oy. Different, a little bit of a different experience. But consider, and I was thinking about this, consider the because I used to be a shopper. Consider the stores, the Buffums and Bullocks and the Broadway and Blockbuster Video, and so many of those that we remember that if you talk to someone of a younger age, they'd say, what? Yeah, right, yes, yeah. Changes. Bed Bath & Beyond, yeah, changes. Mervyn's, thank you, yes, right, they were on my list. Circuit City, yeah, so many others. Tower Records, yes, yeah. We don't have, and I think I was watching a TV program, and the younger woman said, "What's a record?" Right? Yeah. What's and what's a cassette, and what's an 8-track, and what's a CD, and all of those things. Oh my goodness, amazing. So sometimes we spend time in our minds thinking that it should be some way other than how it was. When I was laid off from my job, well, yes, but I've been here the longest. Well, yes, you've been here the longest and you were paid the most. So it was totally a business decision, totally understandable, totally what I needed in my life because it wasn't fun anymore. But of course, we can't necessarily recognize that as we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death, as it were. But I love this quote from Wayne Dyer: peace is the result of retraining your mind to process life as it is rather than how you think it should be. Just between us, I have a situation at work right now that, because life is just the greatest thing, and it just keeps bringing us these wonderful opportunities. And I'm like, will you leave me alone? And life says, not yet. We're not done yet. So there's another opportunity to look at what I believe about how this situation should be versus how it is. Do we have those? Do we carry those? And at the end of the day, I look back and say, you're spending way too much time thinking about this. You're spending way too much time. So those jobs went away. And so there's always the opportunity for the workers who had those jobs to find something new if they are willing to do that. That's how it was then. Now there's a new opportunity. So it is in relationships. If a relationship changes, that's how it was. Now there's an opportunity for something new. The other thing to keep in mind when there's a job situation, and this was because I was a New Thought minister at the time, and so we always get to buy what we're selling, which is sometimes happier than others. But the reminder that my job is the channel of my good, but not the source of my good. The source of my good is Spirit. How important it is for us to recognize that, and that if this channel goes away, there is another one that's going to come in and take that. After the talk this morning, and those of you that have been with us before know that you have an envelope and an index card at your seat this morning. We'll invite you to make any notes on the index card and any prayer requests that you have, and use the envelope for your tithe or offering or donation if you're giving by cash or check. We are the channel of the financial good for Ohm, but we are not the source. Spirit is the source, but God doesn't drop the box of $20 bills at the front door. We are the channel that allows us to pay the rent, to pay the salaries, to the gas and light bill, all of those things. So just as it is in our lives, so it is in the life of our spiritual community. So I lost this job, and it was bad. And it wasn't ugly. They were as gracious and kind as they could have been. But it was bad because it was a shock, obviously. It was bad when the relationship changed. It was bad when they died. It was bad when they did something they shouldn't have, or didn't do something they should have. It was bad when I did something I shouldn't have, or I didn't do something I should have. It's so important for us to live wholehearted lives. You know, Brené Brown talks about living wholehearted lives in the book Daring Greatly, and that we allow ourselves to be fully present in whatever that experience is, and to feel the grief and to feel the loss and to feel the anger and all of those things. We don't in New Thought, we don't have to cover it with icing and sprinkles. We can recognize that this really makes me angry, or this really disappoints me, or this just whatever it is, but be with the bad and the ugly, as well as being with the good, so that we can embrace all of it rather than trying to put it off to the side. That grief, and you've heard me talk about it before, that so often when there's a change in our lives that we weren't planning on or expecting, or even a change that we were expecting, there's the opportunity and the necessity to grieve, to feel that loss, to feel that anger, to feel that hurt, to feel whatever it is, so that we can ultimately forgive it and then move forward, no matter what the situation is. Without, and you've probably heard these terms before, spiritual bypass and toxic positivity. It's all good. Yes, it is. Everything's in divine order. Yes, it is. Everything is as it should be. Yes, it is. All those three statements are the truth. But the fact is, and there's a difference between truth and fact, as you may know, truth does not change, but facts do. The truth is that all those three statements are true. The fact is, I'm angry, I'm heartbroken, I'm scared, I'm terrified, whatever it is. So we allow all of those emotions, all of those feelings, so that, and begin to make friends with them so that we can process them through and move forward. Because denial, which is not just the river in Egypt, just making sure you're paying attention. Denial is also that, no, I shouldn't, it's okay, I shouldn't feel that way, I'll be all right. And yes, I will be all right, but today I'm hurting, or I'm angry, or whatever the case might be. And then forgiveness at some point. I used to think about forgiveness as the magic wand, whatever it was. Oh, okay, I forgive you. Let me know how that works for you. And because down the road, you get a reminder of what happened, or a reminder of you have completely different circumstances, different situation, and yet those old memories and those old feelings and those old hurts come back up for you. So it's so important to treat ourselves, to love ourselves the way we are, as Sylvia's saying, and allow ourselves to forgive as we're ready. But again, as a process, not an event. And by the way, forgive ourselves. Because going back to the previous story for just a minute, I got many, many gentle nudges that it was time to look for a new job. And I said, no, it's okay. I'll wait and see how this plays out. And then you ultimately get, and if you've ever had this experience in whatever situation, we ultimately get the cosmic 2x4 that, okay, you weren't listening, so you need to move along. That happens sometimes. So I get to forgive myself for not paying attention. So we forgive ourselves. We forgive others. Sometimes we need to forgive God. And that's okay. Recognize what we really believe Spirit is and forgive as we need to. Forgive the person that died. We need to do that. You left me. We need to allow ourselves, that might sound goofy, but sometimes we need to do that. Because if we don't, in the backpack or the suitcase or the steamer trunk or the double-bellied semi that we carry our stuff with us in, the need for forgiveness and the bad and the ugly stuff very often turns into resentment and regret and anger and all of those emotions that are okay, but don't need to take so much space in our minds and in our hearts. So there's the opportunity to be comfortable with whatever that is. Oh, there's my list. Okay. Talked about that. Oh. So you may have heard this before. If not, we should talk afterwards. But change your thinking, change your life. Great. You start, right? Yeah. But the opportunity is always to look at, in a loving, nurturing way, look at what we believe about, and we were talking about this before, what do we believe about our money? What do we believe about our relationship with life? I was 60 years old. Holy crap, I can't believe I admitted that. I was 60 years old when I was widowed. I'm too old. No one will love me. I better just go and sit in the corner and wait to die. And the still small voice said, "What?" What do we believe about ourselves? You're too old to do this. You're too young to do this. You're too small to do this. You don't have enough to do this. You're not enough to do this. That we get from our egos and from the outside world. And all of that is absolute nonsense, because if we have the idea that we want to do it, there must be a way. There absolutely must be a way. And whether that's new relationship, new work, bucket list, and I would invite us to just be aware that there shouldn't be, there's that word, but there shouldn't be that many things on your bucket list, so let's do some of the things on our bucket list and go and do and be and have whatever it is, because that's what we're here for. If it doesn't work in our lives, what do I believe about this, and what's the opportunity to change? Okay. So how do I go into the bad and ugly bucket and become friends with those things? That was bad. I don't have to put frosting and sprinkles on whatever it was. It was bad when they died. It was bad when I lost my job. It was bad whatever. And that's okay. because that's just part of this amazing thing called life. That was the end of the chapter, and then I turn the page and step into the next chapter, into the new chapter, into the new possibilities of whatever it is, rather than staying stuck in the bucket. So we don't have to deny it, but how important it is. And I got to tell you, this wisdom came to me at 5:30 this morning as I'm out with the dog. You know, the still small voice just gives us thoughts in the most amazing times. And because we try to be positive and let's change the story and all the rest of that. And the truth is, it was lousy. And that's okay, because it was. But it's how we allow ourselves to accept it, to embrace it, to live with it and move forward that makes all the difference. Don't know how? That's okay. And another awesome quote from Facebook. Come on. Oops, that's not it. When you're nervous about stepping outside of your comfort zone, remind yourself it feels scary because it's unfamiliar, not because I'm incapable. I love that. Never done it before. Never changed a story like that before. Never thought about that before. And the still small voice says, yeah. So let me help you with that. You remember in the New Testament, in the Beatitudes in Matthew, I think, Jesus said, ask, seek, and knock. Do we do that? Do we really do that? And sometimes we need to bang on the door. But because of our oneness with this loving, nurturing presence we call spirit that's always with us, this amazing inner wisdom is always there for us. I don't know how to do this. Help me do this. And then allow spirit to tell us what we need to know and then act on it. Always the possibility to do whatever needs to be done. Up until now, I had all this stuff in my bad bucket, and it was bad. Up until now, I had all this stuff in my ugly bucket. But now, and it was ugly, but now it was bad. It was ugly, but it was. And again, as we allow ourselves to tolerate, accept, and embrace, we recognize that it just was part of it. My favorite aunt in Kentucky says, it's just part of it. It's just part of it, this thing called life. People don't behave themselves. They don't do what we want them to do. They don't live forever. Our pets don't live forever. Our jobs don't go on necessarily until it's time for us to retire. And that's okay. We can feel that, all those emotions, and embrace them, knowing that there's always another chapter. Louise Hay is quoted as saying, I'm safe. It's only change. I'm safe. I'm always safe. It's only change. And I allow those intuitive ideas to come to me and act on what I'm told to do, knowing that there's another chapter for me. There's another chapter for me. Up until now, I believed that, but I'm ready to change. Up until now, my persona, and I don't know how I feel about this word, but nobody asked me, so it is what it is. But our persona is us. So our relationships, our history, our work, our all of those things. So up until now, I believed and I said that, ... but I'm changing that to whatever works for us, whatever works for us. So we can spring forward into what's new for us, carry the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it's part of our book. It's the volumes of our books. It's part of our history, and we don't have to deny it or hide it or cover it with frosting and sprinkles. We can recognize, yeah, those were amazing days, and then recognizing the and then is always there for us. Because again, it's just part of the lusciousness of this thing called life. I think that was, come on. So that we can say, I love this quote from Maya Angelou, this is a wonderful day. I have never seen this one before. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a minute. So in the peace and the quiet of this moment, we allow ourselves to be reminded of our oneness with the God presence, with one another, and with all of life. And we give thanks for this glorious day in San Diego or in wherever you are. It is a glorious day. We give thanks for the opportunity to be together, whether in person or on the internet or watching later. And moving forward, we recognize that it's okay. It's okay to spring forward, bringing the good, the bad, and the ugly with us, knowing that it's just part of our history. Amazing lessons, amazing reminders that we never walk alone. So we allow that. We embrace that. Because again, it's just all part of it. And we offer gratitude, knowing that we really, even in the darkest days, that we never walked alone. So we give great thanks for this beloved spiritual community, for our time together. And together we say, and so it is. Thanks, everybody.